Hello and welcome to Pub and Fig. Because of the season we are in, if I can get this video out in time, I would like to discuss some of the history of my favorite Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. Many of us believe that the path to this film's success has something to do with its amazing story, addressed topics, and the effort put into making it. On the contrary, that had nothing to do with how it became popular in the first place, and it all has to do with television and exploitation. How so? Well, let's dive in. The start of our story takes us in 1943, where a man named Philip Van Stern has finished writing his short story, The Greatest Gift. Unfortunately, no one was willing to publish it, so Stern published the story himself and went ahead and assembled multiple pamphlets with his stories in it and sent it out to his friends as his Christmas card. Miraculously, one of those copies found its way into the hands of David Hempstead, a producer at RKO Pictures. After showing the story to and getting interest from Cary Grant, RKO Pictures went ahead and purchased the film rights for $10,000 in 1944. There were 3 different screenwriters working on multiple drafts for adapting the story, one of which had it to where George was actually a politician who lost an election and then was given the gift to see what his life would have been like if he went into business instead. But it only took a few months after the acquisition for the project to be shelved. However, The Greatest Gift was recommended to and put in the hands of Frank Capra, who saw great potential in the story. So, through his recently assembled studio Liberty Films, he went ahead and purchased the film rights from RKO Pictures also for $10,000 in 1945. He also took one of the screenplay drafts and had it looked over and revised by his own group of people, assembling it into the It's a Wonderful Life we now know. If you think RKO made a mistake and missed out on this, RKO and Liberty Films already had a 9-film distribution agreement, so RKO already would have distributed and gotten the box office anyway. So, Capra and his team working on the film took great care in the writing department in order to perfect the story, but everyone went above and beyond, particularly with the effects. How so? Snow. You see, in the silent era, painted cornflakes were the popular technique in order to portray snow on film. However, they were very loud to work with. So, going into the sound era, you had all of this crunching on set, making all of the original audio unusable. So the common technique was to redub everything, particularly the dialogue. However, for It's a Wonderful Life, RKO's head of special effects, Russell Shearman, devised chemical snow, which was a combination of soap flakes, sugar, and foamite, which is a chemical found in fire extinguishers. The result was a controllable snow effect that allowed everything to be caught in camera with no audible difficulty. So, with a story that took 4 years to write, had its film rights bought and then shelved for a year, then had it picked back up, filmed within a 3-month window of April to June, how well did it do? Well, let me explain through a series of good news and bad news. Good news, it earned many positive reviews and was even nominated for 5 Oscars. Bad news, it won none of those Oscars. Good news, it won the Technical Achievement Award because of those amazing snow effects. Bad news, the film lost $525,000, or close to $7.3 million judging for inflation. And more bad news, it gets worse from here. How did this happen? According to Janine Bassinger, the author of the It's a Wonderful Life book, this was the first full Christmas after the war. Everyone was celebrating and in a happy mood. The film has an upbeat ending, but you suffer quite a bit before you get there. And that was part of its problem. As a result, the film lost a lot of the interest it needed, and it lost RKO a lot of money. So how on earth does this get worse? Well, 3 letters. FBI. Post-World War II revamped what was called the Red Scare, which was the fear of communism spreading in the free world, particularly in the US. It was a problem from 1917 and 1920, but not to the same degree as it was in the 40s and 50s because of a program President Truman put out in March of 1947. And, wouldn't you know it, in May of 1947, the FBI actually considered It's a Wonderful Life to be communist propaganda. And it makes some sense, as most of the allegation comes from how Potter, a wealthy banker and capitalist, is perceived as wicked and selfish, in contrast to the happier and helping lower and middle classes. While this was not intentional, such a framing was quite typical for communist propaganda startups. So how do we go from a film that was a complete box office flop, and practically demonized by the Federal Bureau itself, to the classic we know it to be? Well, copyright requires a renewal after 28 years in order to continue its protection. But when that time came in 1974, RKO failed to renew It's a Wonderful Life's copyright. No copyright means anyone can use that royalty-free. And who on earth would abuse this opportunity? Literally everyone in television! In 1974, nearly every channel had It's a Wonderful Life playing that December. It's free, there are no limits, and the story takes place around Christmas Eve. Leonard Maltin, another author of the It's a Wonderful Life book, had this comment to say about its first holiday season. I remember one Christmas Eve when it was in the public domain. My wife and I played TV roulette with it. We literally kept changing channels and came upon it in different stages of its progress, and you can't not watch it. You can't turn it off. And because it was well past the time of the Red Scare, it was finally recognized as the delightful film it had always been due to sudden and immense exposure. Today, It's a Wonderful Life is revered for its originality and storytelling. For instance, the American Film Institute has it placed 20 for its 100 Greatest American Films list. Many would consider this movie to be high on their Christmas classics ranking, and I think a great part of that has to do with Capra not intentionally making a Christmas movie, just a well-told story that happens to take place on Christmas Eve. I hope you all enjoyed this deep dive into a holiday favorite, but before you consider clicking off this video or giving it a like, please tell me down below what your favorite Christmas movie is. If you want to see more analyses like this, subscribe down below in order to gift some wings and support for the channel. Have a happy new year. Sayonara.